Are you considering a PhD? Are you considering a postdoc position somewhere? Do you plan to apply soon for a postdoc? Then follow the advice below to prepare yourself for a crucial step in the process, the interview. This time we focus on the postdoc interview. If you have the option, insist that the interview takes place on campus. It creates a commitment on both sides, seriousness on both sides. As I told you before, from time to time I lend my horrible voice to specialists. This time Allison McClure takes the floor. Her advice appeared in Nature on June 20th, 2022. Today, Allison McClure studies DNA replication at the Francis Crick Institute in London. Sounds intriguing. I was intimidated, says Allison, by the prospect of traveling on my own to the interviews, particularly as a young woman. I experienced a culture shock on my first trip. I was completely baffled by Geneva's public transportation system, despite having researched it beforehand. I was baffled to buy tomatoes. I knew how to say the science words, but the daily living words, oh my god, I was so embarrassed. Then my Airbnb host thought I was arriving in the morning instead of in the evening. I used a 12-hour clock instead of a 24-hour clock, so I had to wait outside for a long time. It all worked out in the end. Both my Airbnb host and my lab hosts helped me navigate the city and enjoy it. Some of the other experiences I had on my trips were much more positive. I loved all the fresh food and restaurants. Also, the conversations about life as a postdoc were different. Someone actually laughed when I asked about healthcare and insurance because it is a completely different system in European countries compared to the United States. Despite all these differences, the moment I stepped into the Geneva lab for the interview, I felt more comfortable. Science is pretty universal, and I found that I could easily have conversations about science with the people there. Here, Allison McClure makes a small mistake. As my studies show, cultural differences make a difference in science too. You might study the same topics using the same technology, but your intellectual style is culturally predetermined or programmed. On this subject on another occasion. Hello, I am Professor Gad Yair, and in my YouTube channel or my course, Land Your Academic Career, you will learn everything you need to know about academia and science careers. Here I provide you with tips, suggestions and recommendations along with general exposure to trends in higher education. Join me on your journey to land an academic career. In all of my interviews, added Allison McClure, I gave a seminar about my PhD research. Usually people from my host lab attended this, as well as people from other labs in the department. Then I met one-on-one with the lab leader and other lab members. Sometimes I met other faculty members or people who run the core facilities. Often I would go for a meal or two with current students and postdoctoral researchers and get a full tour of the facilities and the campus. Let me add something before Allison wraps up. When I went to do my postdoctoral research at the University of Chicago, my advisor told me to present my PhD study whenever the opportunity came up. In that year, I made 6 presentations. And as Allison McClure says, each occasion opened up new doors and created new connections for the long haul. Back to Allison. I found that giving a really good seminar presentation makes a big difference. In my experience, your interviewers will not expect you to know everything about their research, but they want to make sure that you are well versed in your own, namely that you can answer questions about it and that you are engaged with it. Also, make sure you read the most recent papers from their lab and that you are familiar enough with the basic ideas of their research focus so that you can have a good conversation about it. Try to remain calm even if it is just what shows on the outside. I'm always nervous before an interview, but you have to find what works for you to get through those nerves. One thing that helped me was to find a private space before the start of the interview, usually a bathroom or an empty room, and open my arms wide. It helped me open my body language and pretend that I wasn't freaking out inside. Then, generally, I would calm down as the interview started and as my mind became engaged with the content of the seminar or conversation. Again, I must support this proposition. As someone from the world of athletics, I know how important it is to imagine the movements in your head before the actual performance. How important it was to me to phrase words that I had entertained in my head as I approached the finish line of the marathon run. You mentally go through the motions and strengthen your mental capacity, and by acknowledging tension, you are one leg ahead of it. Continue, Allison. During my interview, I had great conversations with both John and the other postdocs, which was important to me. I wanted to find people with whom I could talk about science in a productive and comfortable way and with a supportive environment rather than a competitive one. I had some bad experiences before joining my PhD lab, and I wanted to make sure that this did not happen again. Thank you, Allison. So what is my main takeaways from this personal recommendation? Prepare for the interview. Just as you prepare for a presentation, do 20 rehearsals before. Okay, 10 rehearsals, but make many of them. Rehearsals, be prepared as much as possible and allow a few surprises to come up. Do not improvise. Until next time, I am Professor Gad Yair.